Join us on the fearless pursuit of self-discovery and growth.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. You're listening to Ivy Unleashed, here with Brooke and Andrea, and a house full of guests. In a house that is not ours.
I know. I love that we're in it. This is the first time we've ever recorded not in our studio. We were actually in the home of Lauren Rudersdorf. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Hi, guys. So jazzed to be here and have you here. I guess I'm where I always am, but I'm happy you're here.
Yes. And we have a couple extra guests. We have three extra guests. Do you want to introduce who these
And there could be up to 5 extra guests during the recording if the cats make an appearance.
Oh, true.
But hopefully they don't, because you might have an allergy attack.
Yeah, if I start viciously sneezing.
We'll get through it.
Yeah. We'll be fine.
There are 2 pups on the couch because we are in my living room. We moved a lot of furniture, but it's working. It's working. So there are 2 dogs watching us skeptically, and there is a baby. There is a little child here with us that's due to join in a month, I think, when the episode comes out.
Yes.
Yeah, when we hear this, it'll be July 19th, and
we'll know
your due date.
A little boy or a little girl in there.
Yeah, so exciting. What do you think it is?
It switches. Every month it switches.
You don't even care, do you?
Right now I don't think I care anymore. But in the beginning I was fully convinced it was a girl, then it was a boy, then it was a girl, and then it was a boy, and now I'm just don't know.
I think it's a boy.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm carrying super low, so a lot of people do think boy.
I think it's a girl, and I am literally always wrong. So it's probably a boy.
Perfect.
Well, that little boy or girl is going to be real busy on the farm because Lauren is a farmer. We have our first ever farmer on the podcast.
Yeah, so excited to hear everything about you and your story and your farm. So let's just jump in. So can you tell our listeners who you are, a little bit about your story, and how you became a farmer?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's a long and winding road. So interject if you need to. But yeah, so I'm Lauren Rudersdorf. My primary job is organic farmer at Raleigh's Hillside farm. I own that farm with my husband, Kyle. We farm about half an hour south of Madison, Wisconsin in Evansville on land I grew up on, which we'll get into that story in a second. But we run a CSA farm. So we'll talk about what that means as well. That's a community supported agriculture style. So we deliver boxes to people every single week of the season, which is 18 weeks. And so we have a membership. So we're selling direct to consumer, which is the best way to be a farmer, the only way that I would ever be a farmer. And yeah, we're delivering healthy food to people in Madison and Evansville and Stoughton. And it's so fulfilling and so hard and so wonderful. And then I have a lot of side hustles because that's what I do. I'm just really into food and health and all of those intersections. So I work for Edible Madison, which is a local publication that promotes local food in our region. So I help farmers and businesses get advertisements and promote their businesses on social, and that's super fun. And then I also have a food blog called The Leek and the Carrot, where I teach people how to cook, because when we started the farm, I realized pretty quickly that no one knows how to cook, especially with vegetables. Everyone was intimidated, and I really wanted to take that intimidation factor away. So that's why I started the blog, and I love to write, and so that's been really fun. And those are my main hustles. There's some others. We'll see if they come up or not, but yeah, lots of things going on.
I know, and I want to jump into all of them, but just going off of the cooking aspect, when we were learning more about your business and your CSA, we read that you provide recipes for people too, which is so awesome because you can use them over and over then, and then you can make your own tweaks to whatever. I think that's such a good idea because you get okra. What do you do with okra? Or I don't even know. And so I think that's part of the reason people eat out so much is because they don't know what to do. And
they think it's a lot of work. And so to break it down for them is awesome, as if you don't have enough going on. Which is what I want to dive into, is how you do it all, how you first started, and taking it way back to your childhood, because like you mentioned, you are on your family's land. So walk us through that. How did you get into farming?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so funny And I don't think anyone in my life ever thought I'd be a farmer, like ever, including myself. Cause I grew up on like 180 acres, which is the best way to grow up. I don't know. I can't remember if you guys grew up in the country or not, but it is,
Nope.
it's wonderful. So I loved growing up in the country, like loved, I ran a lot and I walked a lot and I biked a lot on country roads all through high school. And I just like loved where I lived, the rolling hills. It's so beautiful. But didn't really take any interest in agriculture whatsoever. My parents raised pigs and steers, both for meat, and then had like 180 acres of like pretty conventional crops. So like corn and soybeans and alfalfa and a crop rotation. And I didn't care. I didn't care at all. Like, and I was a really good student always. And I was really involved always, like since I was in like 5th grade. And so my parents kind of like, I had chores around the house and occasionally I had to like feed the barn cats or feed the calves. But for the most part, my parents were like, if you're going to keep being like an all-star in all these things, like you don't have to be part of the farm because this was our dream. It wasn't yours. That was like always communicated with me, which I loved. And so for that reason, I was kind of disconnected from it. I was like, cool, this is like a beautiful place that I live, but like,
I don't want to be a farmer.
I don't want to be a farmer. That looks hard and dirty. And like our back hall, like mudroom was, it's gross. Like that's where all the farm boots and the farm clothes live. And I was like,
smelly.
I was like, that is not the life I want. I was a 4-H kid, so I was like a little bit connected to agriculture there. Like I raised pigs for the fair.
No big deal.
No big deal. I guess that is weird. Because there were pigs at the farm, it felt normal. We like walked our pigs down the road. That's like part of like getting them ready for the fair because you're like getting them in shape. It's very weird.
Can we see some pictures of this?
I'm sure we have some. That was like me and my mom and my little brother.
Oh, I bet you're so cute with your piggies.
Oh, so weird. But that's like literally probably the closest I like touched agriculture. And I went off to school. I was like, get me out of Wisconsin, like get me out of rural life. I was not into it. I was super high achieving in high school. And I don't really know what I thought I was going to do, but like I thought I'd move to a city, thought I'd have like a big city job, but I didn't really know what big city jobs were. It's just like what I thought I'd have. Went to college. I went to a private school in Ohio Wesleyan, because it was one of the 40 colleges that changed lives. So it was all about like service and mission based and like just really like just like serving. It was amazing. So I got to do all of these. I was involved in all these cool activities, got to do mission trips, like loved it. And I was there for 2 years, made amazing friendships with other people who like wanted to change the world. All my friends from college want to change the world. I love it.
Can't relate.
Amazing. And when I met my husband, he was like, your friends are all like, they are doing it. Like people moved to Africa to like literally like changing the world. Like one worked at the Pentagon, like so freaking cool. But so loved that experience. But then it came like end of sophomore year and I was supposed to choose my major. And because it was a tiny school, there was only like 20 programs. And I was like, this is not working for me. Like these are too broad and like, I don't want to go. I am okay with going to graduate school. I don't want to be locked in. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. And I was missing Wisconsin a ton. Like that's when I really started to connect with my roots, was when I left, which is funny because Ohio's not that different than Wisconsin. But I really was like, wow, I miss those rolling hills.
There is something about Wisconsin and the rolling hills. It's so true.
Beautiful.
There can be lots of land. Like Minnesota's a lot of land and it's pretty with the lakes. There is something coming. Like I'm from Southwest Wisconsin and those rolling hills are just stunning.
Even when you leave Minnesota, Ian said it last weekend, there's something about you enter into Wisconsin and you just know. Yeah, like it's a different feeling.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And I missed it. So I was like, okay, I don't know what my major is. I miss home. I'm going to take a year off. And I don't know, like, and I was paying my own way through college. So I was like, if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not going to pay a bill. And so I decided to move back home and work for a year and volunteer a ton and just kind of like get my feet wet. So I pretty quickly learned after moving home that I could not live at home. I was like, once you live on your own, you can't go back. So I ended up moving to Madison. And I just worked at a restaurant and then literally volunteered at like, I don't even know. So I like found all of these nonprofit like opportunities and just kind of started networking and like trying things. Cause I was like, okay, if I don't know what I want, like this is probably the best way to figure it out. In that year, I met my now husband, Kyle. We worked together at the restaurant that I was working at in Madison.
Famous Dave's.
Shout out.
Cool. We always hide that part of our story. Now that we're like organic vegetable farmers.
Oh shoot.
Way to call it out.
Now I think it's on my blog somewhere. So it was really interesting. He was in school at UW. He was studying soil science. He wanted to do something for the environment. He wasn't sure what, but he like wanted to use his like nerdy chemistry soil knowledge to like remediate the land and like make the land better and improve the soil, improve the world too. And I was like, okay, I'm like into this. And I was living on my own for the first time and like wanting to like cook and like show off for my like new partner. And so I was going to the Dane County Farmers Market, and like a lot of my friends were into food. And so I was like learning to cook, talking about these environmental issues with my partner, like just having so much fun. And like during that year, I was like, okay, I'm like on to something. There's something going on here. It was so interesting because I never really like enjoyed food prior to that year. Like I was an obsessive dieter from the time I was like 12 years old, so restrictive, like was buying everything processed because then I could count the calories because they had the label. So I was like, okay, like at least I can track it. And then when food wasn't trackable, it was like really scary for me. And there was something about meeting Kyle who just like loved me as I was. And I was like, I want to like figure out how to like go on dates with him and not be obsessive about what I'm eating. And so this whole like journey with food starting unfolding while I'm talking to my husband about like changing, like reversing climate change and all these things. And somewhere in that, I learned about CSA and I learned about organic vegetable production and I learned about farming that didn't have to be how my parents were farming, which was like the way everybody thinks the farming has to be. Like raising some livestock, raising some crops, making no money, doing it conventional, like just selling your stuff to market at whatever the market dictates. I was like, that's garbage. Like that is so not empowering for farmers. And all of a sudden I started learning about like these farmers market farmers who are like making a living, like feeding people real food. And I was like, this is what I was missing. And I transferred to UW-Madison because they had programs in agriculture. The school I was going to before that I was thinking about going back to did not have programs in agriculture. So I was like, okay, I'm supposed to stay in Madison. I'm in love. Like there's things I can study here that I'm really into. And then we started like plotting our future farm during my senior year of college, and Kyle had just graduated, and we kind of decided we wanted to try it because we learned about CSA. It's we can talk about what that means later, but essentially you're selling direct to consumer and the consumer is taking on the risk with you of if there's good conditions or bad conditions, if there's a drought, if there's hail, if there's whatever, like they're invested in your season. So it's a little less risky than other kinds of farming. And people pay in the spring, they prepay for their share, and then they get produce all season long. So we didn't really have to worry about like an investment. And I was like, like I'm into this. Like this seems fun. Like I'm really passionate about teaching people to cook and community and like all of these things that are about CSA. And Kyle's passionate about like the land and working outside and like has the soil background. Like maybe we should start a farm together. So we started plotting that. And I don't think we thought it was going to be a real thing. It was just like the job market was bad. All the jobs we were looking at sucked. We were like, let's just try it. And then it turned into like our life. Because
did it feel risky at the time? Or like we're like, ugh.
Probably.
Yeah.
But like I've always kind of been a dive in with both feet kind of person. And CSA felt like a really protected risk. And when we started that first year, we were thinking we would just do farmers market, actually. We were like, let's grow on half an acre. Well, it also wasn't risky because my parents had land. So that's like a really important part of our story is in our senior year when we were thinking about this, we had this amazing opportunity to be like, hey, mom and dad, could we lease like an acre of land? And they were like, what? Like, you don't care about farming. You're not a farmer. Like, what? And I was like, yeah. And they started telling them about all this stuff. And they were like, oh, wow, she's like into this.
Into it, yeah.
And they were really, I mean, my parents, we took over their lives for years before we like built some infrastructure. So like, thank goodness for them. But yeah, they were just like, yeah, we have this field. It's like a triangle. It's a funny shape. It's not very productive for us. It's kind of like annoying to use the big tractors with. Like, sure, you can try it out. So when we started, I think we were both still working at restaurant jobs when we graduated. So that's completely flexible. You can pick up shifts, drop shifts, like whatever you need to do. So it didn't feel risky in that way. But we knew, like we were applying for jobs, but nothing looked good. So for those reasons, it didn't feel risky. It was like, cool, this is like the time. We don't have kids. We don't have a house. Like we have jobs that pay us enough that we can like try this. We were going to start with the farmer's market. And then the people, meanwhile, I'm building all this community because I'm volunteering and I'm working in a restaurant, all this stuff. And like 3 of my coworkers from the restaurant I was working at and like 4 of my coworkers at one of the places I had started volunteering at really regularly were like, you should do CSA. And I was like, well, yeah, that's our long-term dream. Like, sure, we will eventually. And they were like, no, you should do it like the first year. And I was like, so that part felt risky. I was like, you're going to give me money and like trust me that I'm going to deliver something. And I've never grown a freaking thing in my life. We had one summer of gardening experience where the rabbits ate everything. Like we did terrible. And I was like, really? You want to give me like $400 each of you? And they did. Like they really, really did. So those people, a lot of them are still in our CSA, which is so cool. A lot of them are site hosts, which we don't need to get into that. That's too much detail, but like they're the backbone of our farm, some of those early adopters. So that's so cool. So like, because of those things, it didn't feel that risky.
Yeah.
I also feel like when you're doing it with someone else,
Yes.
right? Like, you know, it's a team effort. You're not in this alone. You have someone you can fall back. Exactly like Andrew and I, I'm not in this alone. Like, I have another mind to figure things out with. And then there's also that feeling of it just feels right. And life's short, and you just kind of take that next whatever feels right step.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to get more into CSA. Like, what is it? Why is it important? How does it work with the food system? Why do you think it's so beneficial? I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with CSA. Well, and it's so funny. When I started learning about it in Madison, I was like, this is the model. Like, this makes so much more sense than what my parents were doing. And they agree. Like, they're so into it. So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Like I said, the foundation of it goes back to, like, I think the 80s and the 90s. And they were actually, like, similar programs popping up in, like, 3 different regions of the world. Like, I think it was, like, Germany, Japan, and in the US all at the same time. Of this idea of, like, farmers growing for a community instead of farmers growing for the market, which is, like, highly unpredictable. What if each community, like, had their own farmer? So that's kind of what, like, the origin of CSA came from. And it's evolved a lot over time, and there's it's gotten a lot more professional. Like, those early CSAs, I feel like they really just were the community's farmer. Like, people would come out, like, people helped with the harvest sometimes. Like, it had a lot, like, people were, like, in it, where they're still in it today, but it's a little bit more, like, realistic for the modern world, which is beautiful. That's why it's starting to take off and be a bigger thing, because people can actually fit it into their lifestyle better. Yeah, it's all about the community supporting the food system directly. And like I was saying before, with the helping manage the risk. Like, last night we had a big storm here, and there was predicted hail and there was predicted heavy winds. And that's so scary as a farmer, because your plants are just out there. They're just totally vulnerable. I mean, that's all farming. You're just, whatever happens. And with climate change, like, the weather is getting so much more extreme, like, the risks are bigger. And CSA protects you from that, in the sense that, like, you as a farmer are expected to grow as much food as you possibly can. And if some things fail, your CSA won't get it that year. And if some things thrive, they'll get a bunch of that year. And so with CSA, it's a little unpredictable for the consumer, which is why it's so beautiful that people are into it. Because, like you were saying before, people don't know what to do with certain vegetables. So that's a big commitment, being like, here's some money, don't know what veggies I'm going to get, don't know if I'm going to know how to cook it. Like, it's a really, really beautiful idea. And CSA has also evolved over time to be this idea that, okay, you're with us through thick and thin. You're with us through, whatever happens, you're going to be getting a share of our harvest, no matter what that product is, whether it's your favorite things or your least favorite things. And us as the farmer, we're going to, like, support you in that. So in the last, I would say, like, decade, CSA has gotten pretty serious about education. And so CSA farmers, not everyone does it, but most good CSA farmers will provide a newsletter along with the produce, which should include recipes, most do, and, like, storage tips and veggie IDs. And they will teach you how to use this food, because they know, like, they grow it, they eat it every day. Like, they are experts in not only growing the food, but eating the food. So that's a really beautiful part of the model too. So, like, okay, I'm going to take on this risk by supporting this farmer, but they're going to support me right back. And because of that, all of these customers, we have 400 customers this year, they all get to, like, learn how to cook, and they get to learn how to eat healthy. And, like, one of my favorite things, there's many favorite things about CSA, is that, like, you're forced into it. Like, you get a box of vegetables every week, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to waste this. I love my farmer.
You have to be open-minded.
Sounds like good accountability. Like, I don't want it to go to waste. I don't want to waste my money.
Exactly. Like, you got to keep picking up the veggies every week. And so you already have to keep dealing with them. Exactly. And a lot of people have told us that, like, they really want to make a diet change. Well, if you go to the store, you get to choose what you want. And if you're having, like, a weak willpower day, cool. You get a bunch of frozen stuff and you don't get any, like, real food. No, you're getting real food delivered every week. You have no choice. And luckily there's support in that. But people love that part of CSA, is that accountability. Exactly. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful model. And it's good for the food system too, because it puts control back in the farmer's hands, which, like I was saying before, it's never in the farmer's hands. Like, we set our prices, and we determine our prices based on what we value our produce at, what we value our newsletter at, what we value, like, our community efforts at, because we're putting a lot into CSA other than food. There's a lot going into it. So we figure out what that's worth to someone, and we choose to charge what we choose to charge, and people choose to buy it or not. With the market, a farmer literally has no control. If it's a good season for corn, the price plummets, and then no farmers make anything, even though they had an amazing year.
And worked their tail off.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if, I mean, there is crop insurance for certain, so there is some government support for some of the risk, but like a farmer is taking on a lot of risk all on their own. So it's really good for the food system in that way. And it's connecting people to the land, which is so rare in today's world. Like, it's so rare. You go to the store and you're so disconnected. Like, you see a head of broccoli, you never know what it looks like on the plant. Well, our members do because they come out to the farm and
or
they
where it
see
comes from. Like, what even country is this from? What state is it from?
Yes. And yeah, it's like you're disconnected from the land. They're even more disconnected from the people who grow it. And like, I mean, we don't even have to get into the issues of our food system, but like there are so many people who are paid nothing to harvest your food. Like nothing. And that's disgusting. Like, it's terrible. And because you're so many steps removed, you don't know that. So you just go to the store and you buy what you need and you don't think about it.
I've been seeing a lot of articles about blueberries in California right now. And there was just, I don't know if it was in Time magazine or where it was, but this high school graduate or college graduate did a photo shoot in like
I saw that too.
a field of blueberries or whatever crop it was, with her family that's been picking them. And they get like 50 cents for an entire bucket of blueberries, which we would pay $200 because they're so expensive. And they're not getting paid for their labor at all.
Yeah. And there's no protections either, especially in certain states that are more agricultural. Like, I mean, so people don't know this, but the minimum wage in Wisconsin is whatever it is, $7.75 or something. The minimum wage for ag workers is like $3 to $4 lower. It's
Why?
crazy.
Why?
I don't know. Like, because just it's one of the ways the food system's broken. Like, I don't understand the
I mean, they have
origins
to
of all those
live.
issues.
Like,
right.
how are they supposed to live off that?
People are living off of them and their work.
Yep.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And so it's cool too that like we've never done this, but we've thought about doing it. Like, we could literally say one year, like, okay, we're going to raise our CSA prices by $25, all of our shares by $25 because, our crew has been with us 3 years and we want to give them health care. Like, we could literally like, because we have a direct relationship with our customers, we're empowered to be able to do that because the margins are small and the risk is high. And so I get it. Like, I get that you pay people very little in those situations because you're worried about just like making it as a business owner. But at the same time, you have to be able to like treat people well. So being part of a CSA, you understand what your farmers' ethics are. So that's what's so cool too, is that CSAs, the best CSAs are really transparent. So you understand like if they value their employees, how they treat their employees, like how they're handling certain situations. Like, you get to learn so much about the food system at the ground level. It's amazing.
So managing it at a steady pace that feels realistic for you and Kyle, I'm wondering how you decided to leave your job full-time and really dive in, and what that looked like as you were entering the farm full-time to still listen to your body and go at a pace that was manageable. Because, a lot of people, they start something new, they dive in, they don't want to get burned out, but the way that they're going, they're grinding. So what did that process look like? How did you check in with yourself and stay kind of steady?
Yeah, I didn't check in with myself. I burnt myself the hell out so bad.
You live and you learn, right?
You live and you learn. And it was challenging too. So the nonprofit I was volunteering at this collection of nonprofits in college. One of them turned into like a kind of hourly position, and then maybe so I was volunteering for like a year, and then I was like had this hourly position for like a couple years, and then eventually their office manager left for another job, and they at first decided not to hire for it, like not to replace her. They were like, Lauren's doing a lot of her stuff as an hourly basis, we'll just keep her. And then that didn't work. So eventually I replaced the office manager. And so that job grew really organically. And I really was enjoying it. And because we were building the business, and I was learning QuickBooks, I was learning all these like office-y business skills at the nonprofit. I was like, this is a good fit. And it's like an office job. So I get to sit and rest my body. Like, that just kind of evolved on its own. And so all of a sudden I found myself in this job that I was like, this actually like fits with farming so well. So that's where I like didn't really see it coming that I was going to get so burnt out, because it felt like a really good match. But then over time, like, you stay in a position for 5, 6, 7 years, your responsibilities grow, and like your responsibilities grow, your role grows, and it got to be extremely unmanageable, because I was essentially like the executive director's right-hand woman, like running many parts of the organization and running our business. And it was way too much. And because I'm such a passionate person, and because it was an environmental nonprofit law center who like essentially sues the government to like protect environmental rights, like such a badass organization, like so passionate about that and so passionate about the CSA. And so I was like, I'll be fine. Like I'm doing like 2 dream jobs at once. This is like the dream. This is amazing. And they paid me well. And it really complemented the farm in those early years. And they were totally flexible because they got agriculture, they got CSA. So they were really like, they let me do reduced hours in summer and more hours in winter. I was like, this is totally working. And then I still like remember the moment I decided I wanted to leave. So my husband and I, like maybe years 4 through 7 of the CSA, we had these annual business retreats because that's when like the growth was getting pretty crazy and we were deciding to take on debt for the first time. We were like, we need to like check in a more substantial way about like what we're doing and if we're aligned and all of that. So we had these retreats, and I think it was our 3rd and last retreat. We like went up to Bayfield. It was so beautiful. We're like at this cabin doing all these projects. And Kyle's just, it's so funny. My husband's like a really quiet guy who like doesn't share his needs. And then all of a sudden, because he's just thinking, he's like thinking about his stuff all the time. I'm a verbal processor, so I'm constantly assessing my needs with him. And all of a sudden he's just like, I need to quit my job. And I'm like, what? I did like, what? And like he did that too, like 2 years prior when we hired our first employee. And I was like, what? I didn't know we were ever going to hire an employee. And he's like, clearly been thinking about it for like months. So at this retreat, he's like, and he was working at a greenhouse, or like a nursery. And so that like also almost complemented the farm so well because his season was like January to May. He was working with plants. Like he was gaining experience making our greenhouse and like nursery process better.
What's a nursery?
Like, so like they sold flowers essentially.
Oh, okay.
But so he was doing a lot of like the seeding and like the nurturing the plants and then uppotting the plants and like just caring for plants in a greenhouse essentially. So he was learning so much. And also really enjoyed it. But yeah, he learned he was burned out way before I did. He was like, this is not complimenting anymore. Like I need my winter to like build things for the farm and like do spreadsheets and like assess our business. And like, I can't go, 100 miles an hour during the CSA season, get 1 month off to like kind of see friends and family and maybe take a vacation and then start up again going full bore at this like greenhouse job. And they were less flexible. So it was an easier decision where he was like, I can't go down to like reduced hours. So I think I just need to leave. We like looked and it was like, yeah, you're making X amount of money. We could easily make that on the farm if you were there full time. So that decision was super easy. But him saying that, I was just kind of like, we can quit our jobs. Like, we don't have to like do 8 things all of the time. Like, I don't know why I didn't think that was like possible, or like I didn't think that's what I wanted because I liked my off-farm job. But there was something about Kyle leaving his job that I was like, wow, I would so much rather be a full-time entrepreneur. Like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And then my job went through a ton of turnover. Like I think 4 or 5 people left in a year. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stay through this. And then something else came up and I was like, okay, I'm going to stay through this. And I started getting terrible anxiety, terrible insomnia. Like I didn't know how to listen to myself then. Like I didn't know how to, other than like, I guess starting the farm, I was listening to myself, but I didn't know how to listen when I was overdoing it. I never was good at that. And so I like had to be hit over the head with it, where I was like, okay, what is wrong with me? And we also were trying to get pregnant. Like we tried to get pregnant for 5 years and that wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, clearly my stress levels are like
way too high.
And Kyle he's so smart always. And he kept telling me that. He's like, I think you're just doing too much. Like, I think your body's working too hard. Like you're not going to get pregnant if you're working this hard. And I was like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And then, yeah, like I think my last year of work, I mean, my insomnia was terrible, and my like racing brain and my racing heart during that year like was awful. And then our marriage started to suffer because of infertility problems, and because I was kind of mean that year. Like none of my relationships were very good because I had no time for anyone.
When you didn't feel good, you didn't really know it, but your body is trying to tell you something.
Yep, totally ignoring it. And yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I didn't have a process. My body just like scolded me. It was like, come on, listen to me. Like, it was screaming. So I had to listen. And so I finally left my job in March of last year, which was so weird because then COVID hit like a week later and I was like, oh my God, when is going to happen?
Well, people still need to eat. So that's
true.
Good. Yeah. So how long after you quit your job and got back to a normal, healthy, emotional, mental relationship with yourself, did you become pregnant?
Like 6 months. Yeah, which is so not surprising. And it's funny too, because I didn't get pregnant during that farming season. And part of me wondered, like, part of me quitting my job was to get pregnant. Like, part of it was like, okay, if it's really the stress thing, I'm not quitting the farm. I'm not like, that was on the table for a while. And I was like, no, like, I'm not ready. Like, if I have to choose one dream, the farm is staying and the other job is leaving. And so one of my like goals with leaving was getting pregnant, which is a ridiculous goal because you have no control. But then the season ramped up, and the season I was not as burnt out last summer, but it's still a pretty chaotic time. And then like literally as soon as the season started to slow down, we got pregnant. So it worked how it was supposed to, I think.
It's a long time though, Lauren. It's
a long time.
I can't even imagine. And I just feel so bad for both of you going through that. I could cry for you. That's so long. And I am curious just to dive into that a little bit of how you navigate that as a couple when you have so many things going on, a household, businesses, infertility. I mean, infertility alone ruins marriages. I think it's like 80%. It's something wild.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
How did you guys get through that?
We did do therapy, which was, I mean, again, I like have to be hit over the head with things sometimes. So we took probably a little too long to do therapy. But that helped immensely. Me quitting my job helped immensely. I mean, Kyle's a rock. He's always been my rock. So that was really, really important and helpful. Like, he always believed. I don't know how. He just like has stupid beliefs sometimes. He's just like, it's going to happen.
Someone's gotta.
It's true. And it's funny because it's often me. But with that, I got to the point where I think most women do, where you're like, my body sucks. My body's not going to do this. This isn't possible. Like, oh my God, we had this moment like a couple weeks ago where I was like, my uterus is doing this. Because for like years, you're like, what's wrong? Like, that's the part of your body that's failing. You're like, okay, what is going wrong? Because all of the tests came back normal. So it's like, okay, just what's not working? But Kyle just always believed, and that helped me so much. But I mean, yeah, it was hard. I don't know how we got through. We got through it with like the mental health issues that I went through. Went through like scrambling. And I mean, what's really interesting about infertility that I don't think they talk about is like the way that it just fucks with you psychologically. Like, it's crazy the doubts that I had about myself, about my marriage, about us as like humans who were fit to have children. Like, I thought everything was a sign. I thought it was for a reason. It was terrible. It was terrible. And then that starts to like eat you alive, and then your friends are getting pregnant, and like, so I mean, we talked a lot. I think we've always been really good, open communicators, so that helped. But I mean, there were horrible moments, and we started doing therapy. I don't know, probably because it took 5 years, but the first 2 years were pretty chill. Like, it took my parents a long time. So we were like, okay, we'll just like remove the goalie situation, and like, hopefully it happens.
Remove that.
But we weren't tracking. We weren't like taking it seriously. So those 2 years were like not a surprise. For some reason, we both just like assumed. And then the 2 years we were actively trying was like heartbreaking, really hard. And so I think maybe after like a year of the heartbreaking trying is when we did therapy. And it was so funny how much we'd never even talked about infertility in therapy. It's like we had to work through how we had to work through like my doubts and my fears and my insecurities, and like, because again, this whole time Kyle's just like, it's going to happen. Everything's fine. Like, just totally stable. And I'm like a freaking wreck. So therapy helped us a ton. Communication helped us a ton. I think those were the main things. And then by the final year, so when we finally did get pregnant in October, we started to strategize, like what our other options were. That took me a long time to get around the idea of like, oh, we like might have to do IVF, or we might have to adopt, or we might have like whatever. But once we started like talking strategies, that did help too, because it's like, okay, we do have options. Like, they suck, but we have options. And then we didn't need to do them somehow, which is like magic.
Something else I keep thinking about is so much of your story has to do with your body. You know,
so much.
Your job requires your body. It requires your energy. It requires you to get dirty and get your hands in the earth. Getting pregnant requires you to consider if something's wrong with you, and the mental toll that takes. Like, you got to fuel yourself. And so how do you keep up physically with this demanding job and being pregnant, and then even up to this point of trying to get pregnant and just the energy
side
required.
hustles?
Yeah. How do you keep up with the energy that all of that takes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think being a farmer like teaches you how to be healthy faster than anything. Like, because your body is your tool. Like, and if you're not taking care of your body, you're not going to make it. Which like Kyle started going to the chiropractor and doing yoga this past winter. And I was like, yes, it's like your body is going to break. Like you got to take care of yourself. Yeah. And so I learned that lesson pretty early on in farming, where it's just like, I didn't have a very strong core. I was never, so even though I was like this obsessive dieter exerciser, it was never about wellness, like ever. It was all about body image. So like, I wasn't doing core workouts. I wasn't like doing anything balanced. I wasn't cross training. So of course, as a runner, I injured myself because I wasn't like doing any of the proper things. Like I was always just like, go, never listening, never paying attention. And then I hurt my back a few times at the farm. Not super bad, but like I wouldn't be able to work or work out for like a couple of weeks. And that was like my hell at the time. Like if I'm not like working out became my mental health and like my meditation and my like the way that I coped with things. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I can't work out, I'm going to lose my mind and I can't do my literal job. Like this is terrible. So that happened a couple times early on. And you learn that like, okay, you do planks because otherwise you're going to throw your back out doing all this bending and twisting. And like, I just learned through mistakes really. And like, farming in really hard conditions, that's when I learned about hydration, because I was also never someone who like took that seriously. Like, and I don't know why, but I was just like, oh, like you don't need water, you're fine. And then you try to get through a 100-degree day, and Kyle's doing fine because he drank like 7 gallons of water, and I'm sweating, I'm dying. And then I realized like, oh, I bet if I drink more water, I'd handle it better. And now I can get through the heat, no problem. And so I think over the years, again, being hit over the head with it, I learned to listen to my body, and I learned like what my body actually needed for fuel. And like, you learn to, and even eating, like you can't have a restrictive diet when you're farming, like you're using your body, you need to fuel your body. So you start to learn like, okay, I need to put like protein and like, I need to put protein into my body. I need calorie-dense foods, I need calorie-dense snacks, but I don't want them to be junk food. Like I need the things that are going to sustain me for the day. So I think the farm taught me so much about mental health and physical health and just like how to take care of myself, which is so funny because farms also like, they beat you up. Like it's hard, but like they teach you really good lessons along the way.
That's beautiful.
So obviously taking care of yourself, listening to your body requires these healthy habits that we preach day in and day out. So I'm wondering what that looks like for you, right? How you have this discipline when you're going 100 miles per hour, doing all of these things. Yeah, you have to take care of yourself and fuel your body and learn how to take care of it. But what is the kind of that discipline and the habits behind that that help to keep you going?
Yeah. I think just making it manageable, not being obsessive, which I'm not good at. Like I'm always like, oh, I'm going to start a new routine. And I'm going to do it every single day. And then I bail because that's impossible. And so learning to be more manageable with myself. So like Kyle and I did yoga. I didn't get into a yoga routine until COVID, which is so funny. And it's because I couldn't see one of my best friends. So we started doing virtual yoga. And I am so grateful for that because like, who knows, maybe that was the key to getting pregnant. Like I've been doing yoga so religiously the last year and a half, and it has helped me so much. But so like I try to do yoga every morning.
What does it help you with? What have you noticed?
Everything, like literally everything, like core stability, like obviously flexibility. I just feel better. Like my body just feels better. It moves better. Farm tasks seem easier. It just feels
like mental health too.
Definitely mental health too.
I think it's like a secret weapon. Same for running. Like I'm faster when I do yoga once a week. It's wild.
It is wild. And so we found this like yoga with Adrienne. I'm sure you guys have heard of her.
Yep.
Amazing. So my friend and I started doing that. And that also was such a game changer because before I was like, oh, people who do yoga every day, like an hour every day, how do they do that? And that's not Adrienne's thing. She's like 15 to 20 minutes. And so we did some of those 30-day challenges. And I was just really kind with myself about like, if it takes me 50 days to do a 30-day yoga challenge, who cares? Like I still did yoga 30 times in 50 days. That's amazing. And so that's kind of how I finally started. And I really learned in the last 2 years, like, oh, you don't have to be perfect. Like you can do things you don't have to show up perfectly every minute to count, to do it. Yeah. You don't have to not, like if you show up imperfectly, you can keep going. Like that's okay.
It's still showing up.
So that, I don't know where I learned that lesson, but that helped me so much. And so we did yoga like probably 5 to 6 times a week in the winter. And then the season starts and it gets crazy. And so you're gentle with yourself. I think farming teaches you that too, because it has these high highs and low lows with like workflow that you just, okay, that's a winter project. Like that like even keeping our house clean, like we clean our house pretty religiously in the winter and then maybe only every 2 weeks in the summer, and it's fine. Like there's more clutter in the summer and that's fine. And like, so again, the farm is just like such a good teacher because you can't do anything about it. Like you're too busy. You're like too laser focused on this thing that you're doing to take care of all of your habits.
Or exhausted.
And
to
exhausted.
even care about all
Sounds
this.
like
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like you ditched the all or nothing mentality
so
and
much.
also learned how to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Can I remind you that when this baby comes out and you are healing, that your house can be a mess even when you have visitors? Let it be.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And also when they come in, they can help clean it up.
Yeah. That's my classes tell me that we're taking this birth class and they're like, all guests get a job. They enter the door and they get a job.
That's
God, I
great.
gotta
Good.
get pregnant.
And people want to help you, so
They do.
let them.
Yeah. And so those habits I feel like kind of bled through with everything else. Like during the farming season, I try to make space for other things too that I know take care of myself because it's just so challenging. So it's not so much like having the drive to fit it in as much as like you realize you need it. Like you need it because it's your balance. So even this year I'm not running or biking just because of being pregnant. I like already am so tired. But most seasons, like I still will go for a 20-mile bike ride sometimes, like after the farm. And it's not because my body needs it. It's because like my head needs it. And like, I just need to relax, and like riding my bike at sunset is amazing. And so I work things in when I can. And I try to be really gentle with myself.
I love that. It's not something really that you think about. I mean, when it comes to mental health, sure, but being gentle with yourself, like it doesn't have to be a crazy workout. It doesn't have to be sticking to a meal plan perfectly. It can be checking in with yourself. And in this season of life, what's going to make me feel like me?
Yeah, and I love the idea of something that's so simple that you love, like pairing a bike ride with a sunset. It's so simple and basic, but to think like, that makes me so happy. Why am I not doing this more often, even if it's for 5 minutes? It brings me joy, and then it's also something to look forward to.
Yep.
You know,
I think
sometimes
people
we
think
need
it has to be extreme.
Yes.
When you think about health or leveling up your life, or to your point, like being an entrepreneur, like doing it all. Like, no, you don't want to get burnt out. This is a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to work, play, anything.
Yeah, and they think, oh, I have to do it perfectly, so I'll wait till next week. Or I'll wait till next month because I have to do it perfectly, like have this perfect week out. And it's like, no, why don't, like right now, my kids aren't home, I've got 15 minutes, why don't I go for a quick bike ride? You know, I think it's just so important. And then you'll learn too, having your baby, that sometimes you feel off. Like your hormones are all over the place, and you've never felt the way you felt before, and you have extremes. It's going to be a lot like farming, where it's going to be very extreme, where one day you're grateful and so happy and you can't believe you have a baby and they're so cute and then the next day you don't know why you're crying. You're still grateful, but you're just like, what is my life now? I'm a mom. Like I'm never going to not be taking care of this thing, you know? And so I think it's so important to remember, not just for your happiness with career or personal life, is that as a parent, like it is so important to stay true to who you are and the things that you know bring you joy, and remember those, and then keep finding ways to do it. It might look different. It might be shorter. It might not be flying off to Cancun anymore, or maybe, I don't know. But I think it's important to keep those things a part of what you're doing.
Totally. I'm wondering how that started to shift for you, right? So like your body was like, hey, like I'm really stressed. And then you started to kind of ditch, like we said, this all or nothing mindset. So did that become like a practice? Like you had to be intentional with that? You changed your self-talk? Or what did kind of that shift look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, it was deliberate at first. Like now I'm grooving and it's awesome. And it's like, I don't need a lot of thought. I just kind of like mentally check in and figure it out. But that was not how it was in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like a struggle to figure out what I needed. Where I was like, okay, my heart is racing, my head is racing. What, like, how do I fix this? Like literally, what am I supposed to do to fix this? And so, I just like experimented with different things. So like, I experimented with my morning routine a lot. And like journaling and reading, and I listen to podcasts all the time, and there's just so many good tips in there. So I tried to like weave all these things together that I'd learned into like a morning routine. And it's so funny how like, I mean, I do think the process and the rituals that I developed helped me, but now like I scrapped that like maybe 4 months ago and was like, I'm just going to do what I want. And now all of a sudden I have a morning routine with no thought. And it's just like, I love it. And it's so funny. I was like looking for that forever. But I think having the morning routine, even if it was forced, helped me figure out like where I am now. So in the beginning, it was like, okay, you're going to drink a cup of water or a glass of water before you have your coffee. You're going to journal for 15 minutes and you're going to get out whatever you need to get out. And you're going to read for pleasure for 30 minutes and you're going to do, whatever. But again, I was so all or nothing. I feel like my morning routine was like 2 hours of wellness practices, which is like not sustainable.
Yeah.
But it still got me to where I am now. It was like, I kind of dumped all these healthy habits into my life and then like kind of waited and see what stuck. And it's interesting because I was a journaler my whole life and it actually wound up being something that wasn't serving me. It was so interesting because I'm such a writer. But I've developed a lot of really great friendships and I'm so able to verbally process that I've realized like, oh, journaling is actually not that helpful because it takes so much time that I can just talk to my friend for 40 minutes and I figured like all of these things out. So yeah, your life changes too. So then your habits have to change to kind of follow suit.
Yeah. To your point, it's an experiment. And I think something that's helpful for my clients, what I talk to them to is you have to practice it, right? It's called a practice for a reason. It's not going to stick. And you also have to feel the effects of it.
Yes.
And so it takes a while to start feeling that for it to not only become a habit, but for you to reap these benefits of it. And so to your point, okay, you do it for a while and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I feel confident in my ability. I showed up. I built my confidence in this and I know it's going to make me feel good. So I don't have to be as intentional as I did when I first started.
Yeah. And I think there's an identity shift too, where you feel like, well, I'm not a runner and you start trying it out. And all of a sudden, I have a friend, Shannon, she is running her a half marathon tomorrow. And she'll say things like, yeah, it's going well. I don't know if I'll do this again because I'm not really a runner, and I'm like, Shannon, you've been running almost every single day for the last 4 months. You are a runner, and I think people drop these habits because they can't even imagine identifying as that person or as that, having those habits.
You have an albino cat?
No, his eyes are regular colored. Isn't he cute?
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I was like, holy fuck. There's an albino
He's creepy
cat.
at first.
Brooke's like, ah!
Yeah, but like, what, did you feel her go through your legs?
Yes. I was trying not to look.
I was like, please don't touch me. Please don't touch me.
What I'm curious about is these side hustles you have. You have multiple side hustles that require different strengths and skills. And I'm curious how you recognize your strengths and then kind of have the balls to capitalize on them and make money pursuing them. I can't wait to hear more about this.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, the short answer is I just love to learn. Like, I just love to learn and nurture different sides of myself. And like, I get so restless. Like, I am not meant to have one job. Like, some people, maybe they are. That's great for them. I am not meant to do that. And so, I mean, I think it started like even young, like in 4-H, like you do like all these different projects for the fair. And the projects that I would do for the fair were like all over the board. Like, some people would do like 4 that were all kind of like arts and craftsy themed. And I would do like, pigs and art things and like woodworking and nature things.
Pigs.
I know.
I know.
Sorry, I had to.
But I would really be like happiest and thriving when I was doing like multiple things and learning multiple things. And so that's the only reason I have side hustles. I mean, the side incomes are great, but like it would probably be more efficient to just scale the farm more and pay for both of us. But I couldn't do it. Like, I can't do it. I get so restless. And the cool thing about side hustles is that like for someone like me who is really... I'm a really good networker and I'm just a really natural community person. So opportunities kind of come to me when I need them to, because I know like how to activate my community when I'm looking for my next opportunity in my next area. So that's totally a skill that I have that I learned like 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, oh, I am good at that. And like, that's something to like nurture and foster. And so what's so cool about side hustles is that like, if I want to try on a skill for a few years and learn a skill for a few years, like I've kind of been able to do that. So like first it was the nonprofit job where I was like, I want to learn how to like manage a business. Like, I want to learn how to do QuickBooks. I want to learn how to file things. Like, I want to learn how to like be an organized like business owner. And I'm learning these things as an hourly employee. So when the person left, I was like, this is the golden opportunity. Like, this is incredible. And then I have so many dreams. So that leads me to have so many side hustles. Like I dream of owning like a travel company one day. I dream of like owning my own like magazine publication one day. And like, so that's kind of when I started the blog. It was like, okay, maybe I really wanted to be a freelance writer. So I started the blog because I was like, okay, that's an entry point to being a freelance writer. And then I wrote for a while and was like, oh, that actually doesn't fit into my life. And so that's what's really cool about having these side hustles too, is that like, okay, I have a skill and I think that I want to capitalize on it, like with writing or with cooking. And so I kind of figure out like what the path is, and then I follow it for a little bit. And if it resonates and it fits into my life and it feels good, I'm like, cool, I'm going to stay here for a while. And if it doesn't, I'm like, okay, let go of that one. So like writing is a perfect example. I tried to do freelance writing for like a year maybe. And I was a really strong writer and it was really fun. I met really cool people, but like, I'm not efficient at it. And like, it's that I clearly wasn't shining there. I was like, okay, if I'm only making like $300 a month with this cannot ever become anything. So like, okay, writing is like a fun skill. This is good to know. So I just try things a lot. And then, yeah, kind of activate my network when I'm looking for an opportunity. And it's because I'm just such a people person and I'm meeting people all the time. And I'm always learning from people. I would say I learn from books like 5% of the time, and I learn from people like 95% of the time. Like it was that way in college. Like I asked so many questions, and I don't do it as much now that I'm finding my own groove. But early on it was like, oh, tell me about what you do. Tell me about how you got where you are. Tell me about why you like what you're doing. Like so many questions. And so then you start to figure out how the world works, where you're like, oh, okay, this is the route into this, and this is the route into this. And so I kind of follow those paths when I have an idea or a vision. And so my side hustles right now, I'm working with Edible Madison, like I said, which is such a perfect opportunity because maybe I want to own Edible Madison one day, or maybe I want to own my own magazine that features like farmers and food system stuff. And so that opportunity came to being because I partnered with this woman that I respected for like a couple of years. Like I was like, this is a badass business owner in Madison. Like I respect what she's doing for community. I respect what she's doing like professionally, personally. Like she is a rock star. I need to know her. I need to be friends with her. And all of a sudden, like you talk about your skills, they talk about their skills, they find a new opportunity. So she ended up buying Edible Madison, and she was like, I want Lauren on my team because I know her and I know that she's good at social media and marketing, and I know she's a go-getter, and like I want her on my team. And it's just like, oh, look how the universe works out when you just like don't push it. You just like let it happen. So that's kind of been, and you just keep following and listening, and you just keep trying things. So that's how I kind of have been leveraging my skills and figuring out how to turn them into like careers.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you are pushing it though. As much as you are letting it happen, you are putting energy into getting to know things, and you're putting energy into get insight, and you're thinking strategically about your strengths. And what I want to hear a little bit more about too is the dreams that you have, the visions you have, and how you're tuning into that. Like, how are you knowing I need to pursue to network in this area, or I've thought about it, that's just a dream, or I could totally do this. Like, how do you get through that process of making your dream a reality?
Yeah, well, I think I can do anything.
So where did that come from, though?
I don't know where that came from. I mean, I'm sure my mom is like, I mean, toxic positivity for sure, but like believes she can do anything and believes anything is possible. Like, and that was really hard for my husband and I in the beginning to navigate, because he's a really realistic guy, and he's really pragmatic and like really strategic and like grounded in like how things work. And I'm like, doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Like,
Sounds like you flopped that though when you were trying to have a baby.
Yeah, completely.
I feel like you guys are opposite a lot. Like whenever
all the time. Well, you balance each other out. It sounds like
Big time. He's a Leo. I'm a Scorpio, and we live that so much. We are total opposites in like so many ways. And I mean, even that's a secret to success. You learn so much marrying your opposite. I am obsessed with it.
You just like to learn.
I love to learn. I mean that's also like where that's why I think all my dreams are possible, because even if they don't turn out, I'm going to learn so much, and I'm going to have so much fun along the way. And like it's not just fun. Like I say it's fun because I think it's fun, but like the farm is so hard, like so often. And I like also want to give up so often. Like it's not just like sunshine and roses all the time, but it's still every hard day we get through with the farm, we'd learn something. And so that's what sustains me. So I think that's why I'm not scared to try so many things. And as far as dreams go, I am always being strategic with them. Like you're totally right. Like, so most of my dreams have come when either when I'm traveling or when I'm exercising. Like those are usually when my dreams come to life, like very rarely from anything else.
Same.
It's so
what
interesting.
What is that?
Because you're so inspired.
Yeah.
Like, and your head is clear.
I was going to say, you're out of your body.
Yeah. Completely. And so like I used to run without my phone and I would just run with music, but I would literally have too many ideas. And I was like, okay, I need to like take my phone with me. And like I've gone on huge long bike rides and I like need to get home because the sun is setting and I'm like pulling over to like write on my phone because I'm like, nope, that's too good. I have to write that down. And so I am just, again, like just kind of always listening and always watching. And then ideas come to me and I write them down and then I kind of see if they stick because I've had so many stupid ideas too. And like so many stupid dreams where I'm like, but I just know whether it's the time or not. Yeah. So I just kind of follow the path and, you know, suddenly something might happen or an opportunity might come up that makes the dream suddenly feel more possible.
I feel like we could pick your brain forever. You are such an interesting person with so many passions and so much wisdom because you just are a learner and you inspire us to pursue our passions. And so I feel like we could talk forever, but we want to thank you for allowing us to come here in your home with your animals and
your babes.
Take over your space. And after this, we're going to go to the farm.
Yes.
So we want to thank you for your time and your input, your insight, all of it. And we want to help our listeners know where to find you. So if they want more information from you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so if you want to learn about the farm, we have a website and Instagram is probably the best and funnest place to watch us. So Raleigh'sHillsideFarm.com is our website if you're local to Madison and you're interested in the CSA or buying products from us. And it's at Raleigh's Hillside Farm on Instagram. And that's just, even if you never want to buy anything from us, like it's an amazing place. And I know I'm good at social media. Like people have told me that for years and years and years. And like, I love to write. So that's where I kind of flex those muscles. And so it's photos of the farms, of the farm, it's stories from the farm. It's me talking about like what it's really like to be a farmer, like the day in, day out, what's easy, what's hard, what's beautiful. And so if you're interested in agriculture or even just interested in like what it looks like to be a farmer, like it's a really fun account to follow. If you're interested in becoming a CSA farmer, which who knows if any of your listeners are, I actually did develop a course for aspiring CSA farmers, an online course, actually right when COVID started. That was like my project. I was like, quit my job. I should like,
I need something else to do.
Do something brand new I've never done before. It's called CSA Quick Start. And you can totally just like go to my website and email me if you're interested in that. Cause that's a very specific thing that someone might be interested in. And if you want to follow my blog, that is The Leek and the Carrot, all spelled out.com, theleekandthecarrot.com. And my blog focuses on recipes that are predominantly made with vegetables, with produce, with in-season produce. So if you're just looking to learn more about cooking with veggies, it's a great resource. Like tons of salads, tons of, and there's a lot of like Midwest flair too, like pot pie casseroles, like things like that. Not a ton of those, but there's a few because I know those really resonate with my members when they're like, I'm not ready to eat salad every day, but I want to eat produce every day. So if you're looking to cook with more produce, definitely check out my blog. My blog has an Instagram as well. It's at The Leek and the Carrot, again, all spelled out. And that's where I kind of document my personal life too. So there's more stories about marriage and love and travel and dreams and all of that.
Yes, and we will link all of that great stuff in our blog.
Sweet.
So check goldivyhealthco.com/blog for all the information. And now it's time for our 3 gold stars. All right, Lauren, take it away.
All right, so my first gold star is related to my infertility journey and farming journey also. It's just a reminder that you can get through anything. Like, ask for help, lean on community. Don't feel like you need to do those things on your own. Like, life is full of challenges and hard things, especially when you're pursuing your dreams, and just know that it's okay that it's hard, and know that it's okay to ask for help and lean on people in those moments, because that's how I was able to survive so many challenging things. My second gold star is don't let fear of being perfect stop you from living your dreams. That is like my mantra. That has always been my mantra. Like, you don't need to wait until you're an expert. You don't need to wait until you're going to show up perfectly, because you're never going to show up perfectly. Like, it's okay to dive in and just figure it out as you go. Like, maybe don't quit your job and start like a brand new terrifying thing with no experience like I did, because I was able to do that right out of college. But like, you also don't have to show up with like an immaculate business plan and an immaculate whatever. Like, you can start small and you can start imperfectly. And if you really want to start something, like, just go for it. And my third gold star is related to food, because I've learned so much about food and health on my journey of becoming a farmer. I want people to know that it's not hard to cook with produce, and it's not hard to cook healthy. Like, so many people think cooking has to be like this, I don't know, picture perfect thing. And like, they struggle to get started because they think it's not going to be good enough, or it's going to be too challenging. Like, my biggest piece of advice is to find like one blog or one cookbook and follow it for a year. You don't need to exclusively cook from it, but like, if there's like a really awesome vegan blog or a really great blog that's all about cooking with produce, or whatever your goal is around food, like, find a blog or a cookbook and just really cook from it consistently for a year, and you will be amazed how much you learn. Because that's how I learned to cook, is like, I took one blog and I made a ton of recipes from it, and you start to learn like, oh, they keep doing the same, they keep using the same ingredients, they keep doing the same style of cooking, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, cooking has a formula. Like, it does not need to be hard. There's some magic when you learn from one person for an extended period of time.
Love that. All right, great. And now it's time for Unleashing Ivy. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. How do you stay passionate about your interests instead of viewing it as work?
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to this during the show, but I am always like recreating my reality. And that's how I am able to stay passionate. Like, when something doesn't feel right, I drop it. Like, freelance writing, I love writing, but that didn't work for me, so I dropped it. And that's why I have a million careers. So like, if it feels good to dabble and try a bunch of things because that's what you're passionate about, like, I just listen and keep going, and it works.
Yeah, life is too short to not do what sets you on fire.
Yes. Could not agree with that more.
Next, Lauren, how do you manage 72,000 tasks a day?
You have to have really good systems. Like, I do not just wing my professional stuff, because it doesn't work. I've tried it. Like, it's chaotic and terrible, and I don't like it. So I have like a bunch of different systems that work in different ways. So I use Asana, it's an app, and it can be on your computer, it can be on your phone. And it's essentially just like a to-do list that's digitized, and you can put dates on it. You can change dates really easily. You can make tasks repeatable. So like, certain things for the CSA I have to do every week. Once I finish it on Friday, I click the little check mark and it'll automatically populate to next Friday. So I'm really into that. That helps me a ton, because I used to have lists on pieces of paper and I'd lose them, or if I didn't get something done on a day, I would just like kind of lose track of it. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't leave until you check the box. But you can also change the date. Like, if you're like, oh my God, I just cannot add this to my plate this week. Cool. It's going to be on next Wednesday. I'm not doing it today. And I also use Google Calendar to like block time for myself, where it's like, okay, I'm not needed at the farm Wednesday afternoon, and I need like 4 hours to focus and knock this big project out. Okay, I'm going to schedule it in there. So for big projects, I do schedule them in. And then I do the big 3 every morning. That is part of my routine that I do pretty consistently. I look at my Asana, I look at my calendar, I see like, okay, how much time do I actually have today? And what are the 3 things that I like have to get done to move my work forward? And so just really having like systems like that is it's so crucial. Like, there's no way I could manage all of the little details. Like, nothing stays in my head. That's kind of my rule, is if there's a task in my head that I can't complete, when it pops into my head, it goes onto Asana or onto my calendar or into a notebook. Like, it has to be written down, because you can't keep that stuff in your head. It doesn't work.
Ooh, we are going to be looking into that. Thank you for that. All right. And last question. What's one thing you wish you would have known sooner?
That I don't have to be the best to be successful. That you don't have to be, and it actually relates to the quote I'm going to share with you all, but like, you don't have to be the top of your field to be thriving. Like, you don't have to be the top all the time. Like, that just came really naturally to me, because I'm so ambitious and I'm an achiever, and I like to get things done. And that was a huge hindrance for a long time. Like, it's great to climb the ladder if you want to climb the ladder, but like, you don't have to be the absolute top of everything. Like, if that's not working for your mental health, for your physical health, if if it doesn't feel good in your life, like you can be successful without being the absolute best at something. And like, that's fine. That's totally fine. I wish I would have known that years ago. I learned that just in the last couple of years.
That's beautiful.
Amen. I think too, like, what is an expert? How do you get there? Like, they can keep learning.
Do you get a stamp?
Someone is always going to know more than you.
Do you get a hat?
I don't know, but I'll make my own damn hat. All right, Lauren, and we, as you know, like to leave our listeners with a piece of gold. So this is a quote that speaks to you. If you'd like to leave our listeners with your piece of gold.
Yeah. So there is a quote that is the mantra of my life currently, and I've been following it for the last year, and it makes me so happy. Warning, it is long, but I absolutely love it. So it's a quote from Jamie Varon, and I have it written down because I have to read it because it's too long for me to be able to do on my own. How about you don't have to build an empire or dominate an industry or be the number one at anything? What if you simply built a lovely life that makes you feel happy, that brings you joy, that is generative and supportive? What if you redefined what success looks like and feels like to you? What if you decided enough is enough? What if you felt satisfied in the right here, the right now? What if you realized your life is likely a lot closer to your ideal than you ever thought? What if changing the filter in which you view your life makes everything that much more vibrant? How much open, empty space would be left for joy if you stopped thinking you needed to earn it? How much time could you spend in the actual living of your life if you let go of striving for more? How much more beautiful would this moment right here become for you?
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.